let's start in Seattle, though, Richard, because I know this one is close to home for you, and this is a game that Seattle needed. I mean, frankly, they were 4-3 heading into this game. This was a true home test for them against an AFC Super Bowl contender in the Buffalo Bills, and they get it taken to them on their home turf in front of the 12s. Richard, did you see this coming? Are you surprised by this outcome at all?
I'm really surprised by it, Mitchell. I couldn't have saw this coming, especially after an Atlanta game. It looked like they got some things figured out, stopping the run game, some turnovers, some sacks from the D line. Offensively, they were moving the ball down the field. Geno Smith looked really good at times. The offensive line was protecting him a little better. So you thought, hey, they're starting to turn the corner. But of course, you lose DK Metcalf in that game, and going into this game, you see the different things that happen when you don't have him in the lineup. The defense is willing to play man-to-man coverage a lot of the game. They put a lot of pressure on Geno, but when they did have success, when the Seattle Seahawks did move the ball down the field, just too many mistakes. They moved the ball down the field, then Connor Williams snaps the ball over Geno Smith's head, and that play I just totally didn't understand. This is the pros. This isn't Pop Warner. This isn't college football where you're like, hey, this is your job. And for it to be such a terrible snap in that situation, it just doomed that drive. Kenneth Walker picks it up, tries to get a few yards, tries to get, whatever he could, but he could have took points off the board. There's 3 points there. Then they get a huge interception. It was the first interception for Josh Allen this season. You think, oh my God, here come the Seattle Seahawks. Here comes that defense making plays. They Mike Macdonald, whatever he's bringing, these guys. Joby makes a huge play, the first interception of his career. And the Seahawks are in striking range and get stopped at the goal line, a fourth down stop. Geno Smith takes the snap. Again, Connor Williams steps on his foot. He goes down. Just bonehead plays that you just can't have in that situation. And it devastates your momentum and everything. Buffalo turns around, drives the ball down the field, scores a touchdown right before the half. A terrible penalty by Derick Hall, who's been having a really good season. On what would have ended up being a 3rd and long situation. He hits Josh Allen maybe 2 seconds after he throws the ball, a second and a half, just unnecessary. Then him and Jarran Reed get into it on the sideline. And I've been in heated situations on the sideline, Mitchell, but we were a much better team, and it was a much different situation. You get heated like that. There can things like that can happen, but when you're the guy who had the penalty, obviously Derick Hall is embarrassed. Jarran Reed is one of the leaders on that team. He's trying to say, hey, bro, come on. That's an unnecessary play. But when you're triggered in that moment, both people are really charged up. They're hot and heavy, and cooler hits have to prevail in that situation. They didn't. But it was just a microcosm of the dysfunction that was shown in that game. And it was really unfortunate because they played such a great game in Atlanta on the road, early game. They showed all the things they could be, Geno, how good he could be, that defense, how disruptive they could be. DK Metcalf, obviously, Kenneth Walker III. He had 9 carries for 12 yards, Mitchell. I don't think I've ever seen him put out such an anemic performance on the ground.
That's just it. And I was going to say that. Is it just me, or does this Seattle Seahawks team go as Kenneth Walker goes? It seems like when he's in a game like today, there's no run game. This team's borderline unwatchable. Buffalo walked it up and down on him all day today. Josh Allen, these Bills, this team looks like a team that can truly compete in the AFC. I know their kryptonite is Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs, but when you go on the road against Seattle, who is leading the NFC West in a very tight division race right now, Richard, this division is wide open. It's for the picking. And next week, they're going to have to go and play the Rams, who are now getting healthy. That's not a win guaranteed for them. This team, Richard, they need to get back on track quick, and they need to lean on the run game. I know without DK Metcalf, it's tough, but they just looked like a shell of themselves out there today, Rich. I was ultimately surprised by this because I thought Seattle would give this Bills team a true challenge today, and I thought, frankly, they were going to come away with the win. But clearly I was wrong.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they would come away with a win or at least be a lot more competitive than this. Maybe lose at the end, last second, make it a really competitive game. It's just disappointing. But that Buffalo defense showed up in a big way. Like I said, putting pressure on Geno all day. And of course, they held the Seattle Seahawks offense to 10 points at home. It honestly wasn't as close as the score. It was 31-10, but it looked worse than that watching the game. And that's why they're this week's Uber Eats almost perfect defense. The segment brought to you by Uber Eats, where we highlight the NFL defense that put on the week's most dominating performance. And they really dominated this game. Even every time you thought the Seattle Seahawks had a chance in this game to score points, that defense stood tall. They stood strong. 4 downs. The Seattle Seahawks had the ball at the 10-yard line, trying to get it in. The Buffalo Bills found a way. Whenever they got a little bit of momentum, they intercepted a screen pass that Geno was trying to set up for Kenneth Walker III. It was just, again, even the special teams, a muffed punt at the end of the game where it was just like insult to injury. Give that defense a ton of credit, the special teams, and even the offense, because they ran the ball really well. It was James Cook might have been one of his best games, 17 carries for 111 yards. That's a great game for a running back. And we thought they had got the run game issues on defense solidified and fixed last week in the second half of the Atlanta Falcons game. Clearly, the Seattle Seahawks haven't gotten it fixed, and that's why the Buffalo Bills are this week's almost perfect defense. And remember, you can order almost anything on Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now.
You know who looks like a genius right now, Richard? A flat-out genius is the friend of the program, like you said, one of your best friends, Bobby Wagner. And you know who would really love to have Bobby Wagner on their team? I'm guessing the Seattle Seahawks in the 12th, because
No question.
you take a veteran leader, future, Hall of Famer, and Bobby Wagner, and put him on this team. Richard, I don't want to put the cart before this dark horse, right? But they're going to win next week. They're going to be 7-2, and they're going to keep climbing your power ranks. I love the Washington Commanders right now. This team proved to me today that they can truly compete in this division and in this conference. I think they might be a Super Bowl challenger. I don't want to call them a contender just yet, but they are entering that conversation piece. On the other side of the football, Chicago fans, I know you took the L today. Tough loss, but this team, they're going to be tough for years. They got a lot of weapons on that team. I am thankful that they lost, because this NFC North is way too tight right now. The Lions need a little freedom here when you're playing as good a football as they are. But Richard, let's
and Mitchell, but you talk about the NFC North. The NFC West is crazy too, because you sit
right
there and say, Seattle, you got a chance to pull away a little bit, and of course they lose, and now they're at 500. Then the Arizona Cardinals beat the Miami Dolphins in Tua Tagovailoa's return, and now they're 500. The Rams are sitting at 3-4. Who they were about to trade away the farm, and now they're 3-4 with a chance to be tied for the division lead if they can win next week. And that's chaotic. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers got the game against the Dallas Cowboys to take them for 500 for a share of the lead as well. So this NFC West race is getting pretty crazy. But like you said, the Seattle Seahawks look like they need leadership on defense. Look like they need a veteran presence to stabilize this defense. Maybe a Pro Bowler, maybe an all-pro linebacker who's just played a lot of football. Just somebody that's been there, that knows the team, that knows the city, that knows that. Don't get me started on the idiocracy that it is to watch Bobby Wagner walk away for the second time. Not the first time. Second time, Mitchell. And that is one of the more frustrating things of the offseason, because then you trade for a linebacker. You trade for Ernest Jones. Wait, you trade away the linebacker. You paid them money. But they were better than Bobby, I thought. But no, they're not. They're not. They were never, because there are things you cannot measure. There are things that he brings that you don't see day in and day out. There's a standard set, but people are so quick to move on. They're quick to say, oh, the new thing's the better thing. It's not. And that's why people need to appreciate what they have instead of always looking for the future, always looking towards, oh, the grass may be greener over there. How about you water your grass? How about you appreciate what's on your lawn? You know what I mean? The grass that's been growing from a seed. You're watching one of the all-time greats and you say, oh, well, we need to do something different. You got a new head coach coming in, new system about to be installed. You want everything new, but you could have somebody that help bring this thing in smoother. But no, you don't. So you know who wanted him? Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn said, I'm going to be a new head coach. Adam Peters, who came from the San Francisco 49ers, got hired. And he said, you know who's a really quality player? Bobby Wagner. And he's on the market. Kenny Norton said, y'all know who y'all better call? Bobby Wagner. And they called him, and he's helping to elevate this Washington Commanders team and help bring this new regime in and establish a culture over there instead of in Seattle, where he would have loved to do that. Love to be doing the same thing he's doing in Washington, in Seattle, but they did not want him. And that's a whole story for a different day. But that's my rant and my TED Talk for today, Mitchell.
I love it. I mean, you're spot on. And I could go down a rabbit hole with you here, Richard. I don't know how far we want to take this, but I just feel like John Schneider botched the snap with this transition from the Legion of Boom and your core defense. And obviously you guys all moving on, people retiring, and the last guy of that defense was Bobby Wagner. I think you keep him around as long as humanly possible to help this team in this transition, especially with the new coach. And they just did not do that. So we shall see. The season is they are still firmly in the mix of this division. Seattle's just got to get better.